Well, I'm excited for today's episode. I'm going to take questions. I have a whole list of questions right here that I haven't really even gone over. I'm going to go off the top of the dome, as they say, and just see what comes out. So I hope and pray that it's encouraging to you. And I'm excited. I love Q&As. I like to call them Q and R's because I don't always have an answer to something, and I'm not going to act like I do. And so, but I typically have a response to something, right? So, I'm excited to jump into a whole list of questions that I do believe will encourage you. Some of these are personal, kind of getting to know me. It seems as I'm kind of scrolling through some of these, and I'm gonna try to always turn it to give you, the audience, the listener, value because you're taking your time to listen to this. So once again, thank you for listening to this today. Thank you for being a part of this episode, this podcast. I encourage you to go ahead and click subscribe, whether you are listening on a podcast a platform or YouTube, whatever it might be. Go ahead and click subscribe. I plan on getting out helpful content at scale. So this is Life and Leadership with myself, Tyler Wooten. I'm excited to get into it. Okay, let's go over some questions today. This is, again, I'm riffing here. So let's jump into it. What season of life are you in right now, and what has it required you to let go of? Control. 100% control. I'm in a season right now where there's a lot on my plate, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm not asking the Lord to remove stuff from my plate because He gave me everything that's on the plate. I'm asking the Lord to give me a bigger plate, to expand my capacity. And there's only one way to expand your capacity in a healthy way via the Lord, and that is for Him to give you more stuff, for you to appropriately steward what He has put on said plate. And so I am by nature a control freak. I like to be in control. I don't like to feel out of control. It's not that I like controlling people. That's not what I'm talking about. I like order. I like structure. I like organization. Part of that is what makes me me. However, I need to be very privy to the inclination that I might have to want to control things. And so I've had to learn how to delegate to a greater degree. I've had to learn how to be okay when things don't go exactly how I planned them in my mind and trust the Lord that the Lord's going to work it all out. I've had to learn to a greater level the art of being fluidity, not just flexible because even rubber bands can break at a certain point. I want to be fluid like water. So I have had to learn how to let go of control. I don't know if this is what this question is asking, but that's how I'm responding to it, all right? Control. And I'm still learning. I'm a recovering control freak for sure. I think a lot of this is my D personality. I'm very assertive. I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. At the same time, I lean to a 1. All right, don't stone me because I have read a couple times about the Enneagram. It doesn't identify me, but it does give me a little bit of insight, maybe some inclinations and shortcomings. But anyways, so that's the season of my life right now, learning to let go of that. Again, a lot on my plate between being a husband and a father, which are my favorite things. Of course, I'm a pastor. I'm back in personal training. I run leadership coaching, business. I work with teams, consult churches. Got a lot of things going on. I travel some and I speak some, all that. And I just try to take it day by day. There's a daily grace that I'm leaning into that sustains me. Okay, so that's where I am. In summary, second question: what belief about yourself did you have to unlearn to grow? What belief about yourself did you have to unlearn to grow? Yeah, I think this whole concept of fixed mindset is a conversation worth having versus a growth mindset. I'm grateful for certain elements of my childhood. I went through a lot of essentially hard events in my childhood. I went through some traumatic events in my childhood, and so and with that not coming from much, I've had to actively fight over the years this scarcity mindset, this poverty mindset. Again, my family did everything that they knew how to do, that they could, and I'm grateful for that. Don't hear something else. However, there were some mindsets that I've had to break over the years, and there are some remnants of it that I still have to work through. With, like I said, a scarcity and poverty mindset. Holding on to certain things that I know I need to let go of, believing the lie that I might not, amount to very much in life, just hold everything together. This whole just to get by attitude, thinking small, believing small, living small, hiding in a corner, just do your job, do just enough to keep the job, never step out and go after what you really feel in your heart. Just small thinking, small believing. And I've had to do a lot of inner work over the years, especially earlier on in the years, to really fight that. And I believe that the Lord has allowed me to break out of that. I do have a growth mindset. I don't have a fixed mindset that says, here are the parameters. You can only operate and live according to what essentially is predestined for you to live within. I do have a growth mindset. I'm breaking down the barriers. I am breaking down the walls. I am expanding territory. I'm going after what is in my heart with the boldness that the Lord has put in me. And so, yeah, that essentially is the belief that I had, is that you're gonna, whether I called it this or not, but when I was, I don't know, turning in, going into my 20s, that you are only going to amount to, this essentially all you know, because this is all you know, this is all you have known, this is what you're going to amount to, and you can do well in those parameters, but this is kind of just your lane, when God is saying there's an entire horizon that I want you to pursue, and there's an entire world that I want you to go after, and I want you to live inside of the atmosphere of my world and not your childhood or the context, and at the same time, it's like, man, how do you let go when it's all you know, right? Because even inside of that mindset of scarcity and poverty and small thinking, it is, or it has become, essentially your safe place because you are familiar with it. And so anybody listening to this right now, if you are acknowledging the fact that you might think small, believe small, therefore live small, speak small, and you believe, whether you say it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, but you believe by the way of your behavior, or you are behaving as if you believe it, this whole fixed mindset, hey, there's a whole world that God speaks that He is calling you to. So I encourage you to live inside of that atmosphere, okay? You're on this earth for a reason. You have a great destiny ahead of you if you step into it. It's not going to be handed to you automatically, okay? But lean in, as I said a minute ago, lean into that daily grace. Be led by the voice of God. Be led by that gentle whisper. Step out in boldness and in confidence as if God has really gone before you. It's easy as a believer to not live that way. Again, because of what we've always known, what we hear, what we see, because of real life disappointments and losses and other people's contexts that we know up close. We say, well, it didn't work, for them, or they were. Hey, stay steady, stay in your lane, go after what God has put in your heart, and fulfill the purpose of God on your life. Break out of your box. Statistically, I have no reason to go after my dreams. I have every earthly right to think small, believe small, speak small, live small. But God has called me to something greater. And I know that because I'm a man of prayer and I get before God long enough to hear his voice clear enough to go after what he has put in my heart. So, I don't know if I've answered that question at all. I'm just going off what's coming to my mind. Okay? The third question, what does a good life actually look like to you today compared to 5 years ago? Man, this is a great question. What does a good life actually look like to you today compared to 5 years ago? Well, my oldest son will be 5 at the time of this recording in a few weeks. And 5 years ago, before we had him, we had a good life. We were throughout our 20s. At the time of this recording, right now, it is, what month is it? February of 2026. So I'll be turning 36 this summer. So 5 years ago, my wife and I, she was in her late 20s at the time. I was 31 or whatever the math is there. And we had a good life. We were in the ministry. We had been in the ministry for a while. We were running, rushing. We were busy throughout our whole 20s. We traveled. We were in the day-to-day ministry. And then I was in business at the time. Life was good overall. There were a lot of things that we've walked through over the years, as everyone else has in their own ways. But good life essentially is obedience to God. And so I don't want to take away from us, we had a good life then. Overall, life was good. Any type of pain that we've experienced wasn't because of the Lord. It was because of people, okay? But to answer this question directly is, the good life then was probably staying moving and grinding, and we would go from platform to platform, from trip to trip, from meeting to meeting, from moments where we are out front to the next moment where we're out front, and it's big and it's loud and it was exciting in its own way. And that was our season. We were being obedient in that season, and I'm grateful for those seasons. Good life now is margin. Just being home, being with my family having a smile on their face, my wife being happy and living in purpose, my wife having margin, my wife having her health from the inside out. We have 2 boys, and that to me is good life, that I'm able to come home to a loving family. I have a wonderful church community I'm a part of. I love the clients, customers, congregants. I love the people that I get to serve and work with. And I have my health. I have rest. I think good life is just a little bit different. And it's important to just acknowledge that life happens in seasons, right? So it wasn't that this is the good life and that wasn't. If I had that life now and disobedient to the call of this season, then it wouldn't be good, right? But it was good then because we were sitting inside of obedience, right? We were in another state, at another ministry at the time, and we had business and et cetera. And that was what the Lord would call good because we were being faithful. We were being obedient. And so today, the reason why it's good right now is because it is good in season. But at the same time, if you were to put the life I'm living now versus the life we were living then up next to each other and say, choose one, and I got to just choose, I would 100% choose the life with my family and with margin. It's very different now, okay? Your boy lives on a cul-de-sac, in some suburb country, beautiful little town. All right. We got a little space behind our house. Okay. 5, 10 years ago, your boy was trying to live downtown with no car in a loft. You know what I'm saying? Like, very, very different. Okay. But now I'm so grateful that I go home to stillness and go home to family. Anyways, I'm belaboring this point, but that's where I am today. A little bit about me. So the value point in here is what God calls good is obedience. Okay, that's what it comes down to. And we have to live in that revelation and understanding that life happens in seasons. Okay? This is why some people have such a hard time shifting seasons, because they're trying to live last season today. That season's gone. So what does God call good today? Okay. Next question. Where do you feel the most tension between who you are and who you're becoming? Where do you feel the most tension between who you are and who you're becoming? Let me read it again so I make sure I understand it. Where do you feel the most tension? Some of y'all get me. The most tension between who you are and who you're becoming. We can all envision who we want to become, right? Because that's really the greatest evolution of your life, is not transitioning into different things you're doing, etc. It's who you're becoming. And of course, we know that we are to become more like Jesus, ultimately. That's the process of sanctification. But the greatest tension that I feel is, it's kind of been a common thread throughout this whole conversation in the last 15 or so minutes. It's having to break out of belief systems, even if they're good, but you got to grow them. Breaking out of rhythms, certain rhythms. There's a book that's in my bag right now. I've yet to open it up, but I presume that it's going to be incredible. It's called something like What Got You Here Won't Get You There, or something like that. You know what I'm talking about, some of y'all out there. And so that's what, and to be honest, I hesitated even buying that book because I feel like I was on a good trajectory. But I have to be reminded, I know relatively I'm young to some, older to others. Overall, I'm getting up near halfway through my life, and I am just 17 or so years into professional, vocational leadership, and I feel like I've done okay overall. I could do way better, but I feel like my point is okay with putting myself on a decent trajectory. I got good counsel in my life. I got, people speak into my life. I pursue growth like crazy. I read, I listen, I converse, I go to this event. I'm a part of this. I get certified in this. I'm pursuing growth like crazy. I am obsessed with growth. Some people ask for gifts and for some swag for Christmas and birthdays. I ask for courses. I mean, that's just me. I am obsessed with it. But I got this book because, I wish I had it with me. I got this book because I understand that to go to the next level, I'm starting to feel a little capped. And I have to evolve. I have to grow. I have to transform. I got to go to another level to reach the next level of impact and influence for the sake of the kingdom and for people. So what got me here will not get me there. And part of me believes that it will get me there. But I had this thought yesterday, and I feel like it was the Lord. He said to me, he asked me the question, it was pretty rhetorical, you know how the Lord speaks, because he'd never ask a question he doesn't already know an answer to. That's why he asked Adam, Adam, where are you? It wasn't that he wanted to know where Adam was. He wanted to make sure that Adam knew where Adam was. So it was a self-awareness question, right? First question ever asked in the Word of God, self-awareness. So he was asking me, he said, son, what if you walk into rooms and walk into conversations as if you knew nothing all over again? Because y'all know how it is. If you're listening to this, you're probably a leader in some regard. You know, you walk into rooms and people, they lean on you, and it's the honor of our life, and it's a privilege. They ask, you know, we bring solutions to the table. We need to have maybe not always answers, but some type of responses that set us on a trajectory of getting a solution or you know, resolving an issue. You know, that's why we have the positions that we have. And there are some settings you need to do that in. But what if we got ourselves in settings that we walk into and just we acted like every bit of information was brand new to us? Now, we need to check them according to truth, of course. And it might be just a simple thought here. But it was something that was so profound to me because I am obsessed with solutions, and I got to resolve things and give answers and give accounts for things. But I need to make sure that I'm getting inside of rooms that, number one, first of all, that I'm not the smartest one, right? And there are hardly rooms that I walk into that I might be the smartest because I surround myself with talented people. And I love leading a team full of people that are better than me and smarter than me. That's a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's a test to my security in the Lord with what He's called me to. But it's a lot of fun to be able to lead and serve people who are just simply better than me at things. I want my whole team to be better than me at everything. Anyway, so I'm prolonging this a little bit, but I think the greatest tension is, I need to switch up my rhythms, my disciplines. I need to take it to a greater degree. I think I'm pretty disciplined overall. I really value having high standards and disciplines, but I am trying my best to truly believe, maybe this is for you too, that what got me here will not get me there. I don't know where there exactly is, but I just know that right now I'm looking for ways, actively, obsessively looking for ways to level up, to switch things up. So this is a great question. Where do you feel the most tension between who you are and who you're becoming? Yeah. So I get those strategies and different disciplines that I need to establish in the place of prayer. And I believe I'll be fluid once again with the seasons, okay? Hope I answered that. Next question here. What daily habit has quietly changed your life the most? I mean, it's got to be prayer and journaling, processing thoughts on paper, because I'm a communicator and I speak all day, every day, pretty much. I think quieting your soul, calming your spirit, getting before the Lord, allowing Him to speak to you, opening up that conversation, that dialogue with Him has absolutely changed my life the most. And on a practical level, waking up, and I've done this for years, immediately hydrating myself, 16 ounces of water. It's a thing that I do. I move into getting my large amount of protein via food and supplementation with a handful of micronutrients tablets. And then as I'm making my coffee and I have that time. So a daily habit that has changed my life the most, I mean, it's prayer. I mean, right? I mean, what else are you going to say? Prayer is oxygen to a believer. Not even just a leader, but to a believer. It's oxygen, right? It's oxygen to a person. Communion with God. That's the most important thing. That's the most important pursuit of our lives. I can get into other things like my other type of health and fitness habits, et cetera, but margin, et cetera. But it's always going to come back down to spending time with the Father in heaven. Okay. Get into some leadership questions. How has your definition of leadership changed over time? Yeah, a quick response to this, probably I can probably word it prettier later, but a quick response to this. Leadership, I thought, was always, and this is true to an extent, like the one that's up front, making the decisions, sometimes the loudest one, sometimes the boldest one, the one on the platform, mic in your hand, literally or figuratively, the one that's just presence is known. But I think what has shifted for me the most over the years is that sometimes the leaders are methodically, intentionally quiet. Sometimes they play the background. Sometimes they get a little bit more under the surface and work on the root system a little bit more. Values being implemented, culture being harvested, having the conversations, having the moments of care, in the hallways or in the offices with team members, really empowering others, releasing others into their purpose and destiny. That's part of a leader, is to help people steward their destiny. They're not here to serve yours, you're here to serve theirs. And I think that was a pretty tectonic, pretty big shift with the way that I did it. And so the whole servant leadership model, Jesus came not to pick up a title, but a towel, right? He came to serve, not be served. And so there are many different expressions of leadership. Sometimes it demands you being out front and making bold decisions. Sometimes it demands that you step aside and have a quiet conversation in a room next door. So servant leadership. And don't get me wrong, I got into leadership to serve people always, but the way that it expresses every day, that method has definitely changed. Next question here. What leadership mistake taught you the most? What leadership mistake taught you the most? Yeah, man, I'd have to really think about the several mistakes that I've made over the past, I got into leadership in church space 2009, and I made a lot of mistakes, man. I think just kind of piggyback off of what I just mentioned. I used to be a lot more of a bulldozer leader, and I got a lot of things done at speed. And I was pretty inconsiderate because I just expected everybody to kind of operate how I operate, and I thought that was leadership. I would run over people of all ages. I'd run over a kid demanding that they do better. And I'd run over, because my whole leadership journey, because I was a vocational minister. I was 19 years old. So my whole career, basically, I've been leading up to different age groups. And so I've always kind of been in the middle of all the age groups. And I'm coming of, I'm a little bit different in my age now, but I would just run over people, and tremendous mistakes were made. I heard a lot of people, and I'm sure that people felt overlooked. My intent was never to hurt or to, as I mentioned in the beginning, to control, to coerce. I couldn't recall. I was just talking with my wife about this, and she was saying the same thing. Like, I can't recall a time in my career that I've needed that, like that whole control thing. Do as I say. That's not why I got into ministry. It's not why I got into business, to coaching, helping people, to consult. There are settings that you need to be more black and white in and make sure that you are clear. There are times where you need to be a little bit more stern as you assert yourself. I get that. But I don't think I really learned the art of the sway, the art of true empathy. And I didn't really learn that I could apply empathy and understanding without agreeing. I think I thought that if I were to meet them where they were emotionally, the people that I served and led, I thought that if I were to meet them there, that I was affirming something that they might have done that wasn't a good thing to do. When in reality, I learned over the years that you can listen to understand, to see where they're coming from, to see maybe why they made that mistake, to apply some real empathy. That word has gotten such a bad rap lately, but empathy it's a beautiful thing. Jesus was moved with, he was empathetic. He was moved by compassion always. It was always for the sake of people why he acted the way he did, but he even had a beautiful sway with how he would express himself. And so I just think I learned the art of the sway, some years into my career, and that has been a wonderful lesson that I've learned, and I've tried to make it right with people who I have upset over the years. But of course, as a leader, you upset more people than you realize, and that's a very unfortunate part about leadership, especially ministerial leadership. It's you do upset people, and it does become, of course, it's a regret. You never want to upset people, but you pray that the Lord works it out on their behalf and heals whatever wound that you might have caused as a leader. Nobody's perfect. We all hurt people unintentionally. If you're a leader that needs to hurt people and you do it intentionally, so you need to get out of leadership. You need to take some time and heal that hole in your soul. Okay, we can really talk about that for a long time. Let's see. How do you lead when you feel tired, discouraged, or unsure? One, you got to get in prayer. Okay, pray. Get before the Lord. Ask him to search your heart. He will affirm you as a father. When I feel tired, so this is kind of a big question. Of course, my wife is my best friend, and she is my built-in counselor and consultant. She will speak truth in love to me. I am extremely open to that. I ask her, she's able to see, blind spots with me. She knows kind of how I act or kind of how I speak, when I do get a little bit tired or weary. And so she'll bring that to the surface. And I thank God for a best friend like that. Thank God for a wife like that. Thank God for her. And then we established I need to adjust my rhythm. Sometimes we're tired because we're trying to live last season's rhythm in this season. And that's why you have to be, again, fluid with the season. You got to acknowledge the rhythm of the season and adjust. You got to adjust your sail and go where the wind's blowing. And so sometimes a good nap will help. It won't always solve it. Sometimes a vacation will help. It won't always solve it. Okay, so if you're out of order, if you're disorganized, if you don't have any margin, if your rhythm's off, your habits are off, and you go on vacation, that's not going to solve your burnout problem, because you have to go. It's not just about taking the trash out and going to the dumpster. You might need to go to the drawing board, right, and actually work out rhythms. That's why I talk a lot about the momentum blueprint: vision, mission, strategy, and values. You can find more on that, tylerwooten.com, or a synopsis, an overview on this channel. So how do you feel? How do you lead when you feel tired? Well, you want to be led by the grace of the Lord, of course, and then you need to reestablish margin in your life. You need to have those honest conversations. Don't be shut up about how you're feeling. Okay, so it depends on how you define tired here. If you're weary down to the core, you need to take your time. By the way, take your vacation time, okay? Just period. That's a little bit of a side thought there. Take it. It's yours. Take it. I always want to make sure that I'm keeping the vision in the forefront when I'm feeling discouraged, because the Lord's not going to give you a vision if he didn't call you to fulfill it. He wouldn't call you to it if it was not possible. It is possible. If the Lord is in it and he spoke it, his word won't fall void. You got to lean into him according to the strategy from on high that he gives you to fulfill that vision that he gave you. So there are going to be plenty of moments of discouragement in leadership. Leadership it's one lifelong hard conversation. It's a daily grind. Sometimes it's fun. And sometimes you just got to do the daily dirties of it all. Sometimes you got to resolve conflict. Sometimes you got to grab a mic and preach and speak and inspire. Sometimes you got to make hard decisions. And all the while, you business owners out there and even church leaders, that bottom line is doing like this. Sometimes it's going black, red. But you got to stay the course, stay steady. The Lord is responsible for the timing of it all to come to pass. You are just responsible for the trajectory that you remain on. Okay, so how do you lead when you're discouraged? I pray, I lean into the Lord, I share it with somebody that I trust. I make sure that my own personal disciplines and my health is right. And then I just take it day by day, again, a daily grace. How do you lead when you feel unsure? So I'm breaking this down. There's 3 different questions here. How do you lead when you feel unsure? Again, I go back to what the Lord has spoken. And He's faithful to remind you, okay? And that's why I like journaling, because I can go back to the spoken word of the Lord, etc. So we can talk a lot more about that. But there are plenty of subjects in the Word of God who were tired, discouraged, or unsure. Like Elijah, he prayed that he might die. Literally, he just went from proclaiming that Yahweh is God by the way of his introduction to King Ahab. And then he goes up, the showdown with the prophets of Baal, calls down fire to lick up the water, calls down, rain in the midst of a drought. And so he's batting 1,000. And then he outruns horses downhill over 20 miles to the capital city, Jezreel. And then he gets a memo from his homies that Jezebel had sent some people to kill him. And then he ran out into the wilderness. And then he prayed that he might die. So he got tired. He was probably unsure. He was discouraged. What did he do? The Lord led him to, going up a mountain. There were some other things in that story that are powerful. And then he went up and got in the presence of the Lord. And then the Lord sent him right back to the wilderness of Damascus. But the presence of the Lord will sure do it. Will sure do it. What's one leadership skill that isn't talked about enough? One leadership skill that isn't talked about enough. Yeah, my quick response to this would be consistency. Just being consistent every day. Just keep showing up and not giving up. Being committed to the long game. Maybe you can talk about resilience. You can talk about patience. Patience is an absolute skill. We live in a day and age where everything is microwave. If it doesn't happen within 6 days, we pivot our entire vision. We outrun the pace of grace. But if you just keep showing up every day, sticking to what God has called you, to pursue, playing the long game, waiting on the Lord, but waiting correctly, okay? Preparing yourself, pressing into Him, all the while, I would say, patience, persistence, perseverance, etc. That is an absolute leadership skill. I just see a lot of people, pull out of the race prematurely in what the Lord's called them to because they're not seeing it in a certain timeline. Again, it's about daily pursuing the trajectory that God has called you to, and He is responsible for the timing. He knows when to give that thing to you. He knows the best timing. He knows when your character is ready. He knows when everything else around you is ready and prepared for Him to pour it out. So that's one leadership skill. I would also say humility. Humility, man. The world really promotes pride and being puffed up in yourself and thinking that you're all that. And it's a fight for sure. Because you get compliments as a leader sometimes. And we live in a social media day and age where, we got to put content out there, for the most part, generally. And, people will want to compliment you, et cetera. But, we got to learn how to accept the compliment and deflect the glory, because we know that at the end of the day, man, if it had not been for Jesus on my side, right? And we know that it's not by might nor by strength. Those two words mean individual strength and collective strength with one another, but it's by the Spirit of the Lord. So, man, I know that, I'm not, I know that I'm not all that. I know with him I can do nothing of substance, or without him, I could do nothing of substance, nothing good, but with him I can do something. But it's because of him, and it's through him, and it's for him, right? So humility. This leads us into the next question. How do you balance conviction with humility as a leader? Conviction with humility. How do you balance that? Man, one way I'm going to respond to this is the more you spend time with the King of Glory, John, in the book of John, it says, he must increase, I must decrease. You don't know how to appropriately decrease until you appropriately increase or magnify him. You don't know how small you are and how reliable and dependent you are on him unless you get around him enough. Because you're not going to stand face to face with the Lord in your prayer closet and come out saying that you're even close to his glory. That you're even close to, the magnitude of him. I walk out going, I am a priest and a king in the kingdom, but it's only because I am subject to the King of Glory. Okay, so we got to be humble, man. We got to be humble, reliable, dependent on him each and every step of the way. Don't get outside of that. What does healthy accountability actually look like in your world? Healthy accountability actually, have an honest conversation, again, with spouse, with voices in my life, with those who have gone before me, completing accountability forms and submitting those to the right people. Again, sharing with a small group of people certain dreams and desires that I have. And then, of course, having a couple people in my life who know all my secrets. I don't keep secrets, but who knows, the shadow parts of me, my inclinations, shortcomings, etc. I have a few people who have, for example, all my passwords to any account that they want. And we've not needed to utilize that, but they have them. Anytime I go in there and switch them, they have them. It's important for me. I like to be above reproach. I like to use wisdom on things. And I'm not going to ever act like I am above covering, above accountability, above temptation. I am human as well, and we all need to be under covering, okay? So healthy accountability look like in your world. Those are a few things that I do. How do you lead yourself when no one is watching? Yeah, that's really the test of a true leader. You can't lead other people effectively or at max impact unless you lead yourself well. Leadership starts within, right? So I lead myself when no one's watching. Again, I wake up, I take it slow. It's still dark outside. I do my nutrition things, I do my movements, I do my time with the Lord, I journal, I scribe, I pray. That's leading. That's one way of leading yourself. Making good decisions, when you're choosing what to eat when no one's around. I'm getting a little bit into the health and wellness part of it there. But, and that's all part of self-leadership, Yeah. How do I lead myself when no one's watching? Those are just a few ways, but those sometimes can speak of a greater picture there. Amen. Amen. Yeah, we can't, as a preacher of the word, I can't only open the word when I need a sermon, right? Because I want my preaching to be out of overflow, not out of just what's left. So there are several ways that I'll lead myself when no one's watching. I just have these disciplines and these standards and these personal values that I live by because, like my wife and my family, they know our values, and they know at the end of the day they can trust that I'm going to do my best, of course, with the help of the Lord, to live according to these values and these convictions that we have set in stone. They know that hubby, or she knows that hubby, and they know that, dad is going to do the right thing, even when it's hard, etc. They know I'm going to go to prayer before anything or anyone else, right? A bunch of questions here. Oh, we're 45 minutes into this. Hopefully this is encouraging to you. Okay, I don't know if you're on a drive, if you're in your office, wherever you might be. Thank you for your time today. I'm doing this just to speak life. How does your physical health impact your leadership and decision making? Yeah, somebody said one time that I don't work out for vanity, I work out for sanity, and it helps with clarity of mind. I have greater energy. You gain energy by burning it at the cellular level. You are reframing how those cells fire by working out, by eating well. I mean, these things all fuel my leader. I would not be the leader that I am, whatever that means, if I did not value my health. I wouldn't be the father, the leader of my household, the husband, if I was not healthy, okay? So it absolutely impacts. And sometimes I'm a couple good workouts away from snapping back into it. If I'm in a little funk in my leadership, if I'm stressed, if I'm having trouble making a decision, if I'm getting a little bit loose or relaxed, and even in like my prayer life, I batter my body, I beat my body, I put my body through a couple good workouts, man, and I'm reframed just like that. So physical health absolutely matters when it comes to decision making. Again, it'll help you be sharper, be more confident overall. Confidence is attractive. There's a lot we could talk through when it comes to that. So if you are a leader in any realm at all, I just encourage you to value your health from the inside out. Okay? What's one fitness myth you had to unlearn? What's one fitness myth you had to unlearn? Yeah, I used to do like 3-hour AM, 3-hour PM just because. And if you're on a training cycle doing something, that's fine. That's great, especially if you're an athlete. That's different. But just us common folk like myself, it doesn't take all that. I have valued now for some years the art of sustainability. What's sustainable? So for me, what it looks like for me, 5-6 days a week, if I'm getting 45 minutes in a workout, that many days a week, sometimes less. And I'm doing other things, of course, kitchen work, that's a whole different conversation. But I thought I had to do a lot all the time, and a lot of people will burn out that way. But 45 minutes to an hour, 3-4 times a week in the gym or moving, etc. Man, doing something that I want to do something that I can do at, in 20 years from now, with what I'm doing today, right? Sustainability. Naturally, it might change, it might increase, decrease, whatever. But my nutritional intake and my gym life, my movement life, I'm confident that I will be able to do that in the same way in 20, 30 years from now, because I'm on a sustainable track, little by little, okay, little by little. That's why I don't get into these fads or phases with this latest diet or this type of this or that. I don't really give way to that. Frankly, I don't have a lot of time or energy to put into switching stuff up, and I'm not going to say I would never try something. I haven't in a long time. I'm not interested at this point to do anything else than what I'm doing right now. And it just works for me. Everyone's body has a different key that it takes to unlock that. And the more time this sounds funny, but the more time you spend with your body, that's crazy. The more time you spend being aware and educated on how your body functions, the more you'll learn about the key that it takes to unlock your physical health, okay? Here we go. How do you stay consistent when motivation disappears? Yeah, I don't rely on motivation. I'll listen to those tracks as well. Of course, I want to make sure that those tracks are actually speaking truth. And I mean those inspirational tracks that we have on Spotify and YouTube, like that just kind of really gasses us up. If it starts to make you the hero of the story, because a lot of tracks, they'll kind of make you the hero, and it's like, haters gonna be your motivator. It's like, well, hang on now. Like, since when do we give haters that much power in our life? I'm doing this because I got dreams. I got vision, right? I got family. I got, so we got to make sure that we're careful what we're listening to. But, motivation isn't bad in itself. I just don't rely on it. What motivates me is the vision that the Lord has given me, the dreams that he has given me in the place of prayer, that he is calling me to, that he is holding out and saying, hey, come seize this. Here's the promised land. Continue to move toward me. And along the way, he fulfills you, et cetera. But I rely on disciplines because there are going to be plenty of days where motivation walks out of the room, but discipline stands up. And so you got to make sure that you have discipline. And discipline only comes by the way of having strong vision. Okay, you show me someone with no discipline, I'll show you someone with no vision. Okay, that's why it's important to have the vision from the Lord for your life. And so motivation absolutely disappears. I'm not always motivated, but I do it anyways, and I've never regretted eating a good meal. I've never regretted pursuing family over everything else. I've never regretted a good workout. If I don't do those things, there's regret there. And so I'm going to live life on the forefront, live life in a disciplined way, doing what I know is right. And then when motivation happens, I'm grateful for it. I don't rely on it. There's a lot more in here that we can get into. There were some mental health questions. Man, I'll probably do a part 2 here, getting into some of that, etc. Faith, marriage. A lot of great questions here. So there's a lot more we can get into, and we'll do so. I loved these Q&A or Q&R moments with you. And I hope that anywhere in the last 50-something minutes you were encouraged, or if anything, you just felt seen and not alone. Look, we're all frail people, and we're made strong by the Spirit of God, and we all need the same grace and the same Jesus, and we all have a great destiny ahead of us if we just do what we need to do to go and seize it, okay? He's not going to promise you in the book of Jeremiah that the plans that he has for you are great and they are to give you hope in the future. They're not to harm you. He's not going to say that if he didn't mean it, right? And so you have great destiny ahead of you. And it's never I feel this prophetically for somebody listening right now. You're driving in your car, you're in your office, you are in your kitchen, and you feel like it is too late. It is not too late. It's not too late. Joel chapter 2, I believe, talks about he restores the days. Hear me. He restores the days that the locusts have eaten. He will make up that gap in your life because of grace, because he's a good God. He's a perfect Father. So anyways, hey, God bless you. Look for part 2 of this Q&A. I'll probably do a whole series, and we'll keep this going on. I encourage you to reach out if you have any prayer requests, or if you would like to partner with if you're looking for a coach, a consultant to work with you and or your organization, go to tylerwooten.com. I encourage you once again to subscribe to this channel. And again, I hope and pray that you were encouraged today. So, hey, God bless you. Much love. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.